The mind as the source. You've probably heard the saying, the eyes are the window to the soul. But in Buddhist wisdom, there's an even deeper truth. Mind precedes all things. This comes from the Dhammapada, one of the most cherished collections of the Buddha's teachings. And it means exactly what it sounds like. Everything you experience, every word you speak, every action you take, begins in the mind. Think about it for a moment. Your face, your tone of voice, even the way you walk into a room, they're not just random. They're shaped, sometimes unconsciously, by what's going on inside you. If you've ever been in a really good mood and noticed that strangers smile at you more, that's not magic. That's your inner state radiating outward like sunlight through an open window. And the opposite is also true. When our mind is heavy, angry, anxious, resentful, it shows. The shoulders slump. The eyes lose their sparkle. The voice carries a weight. Even if we try to fake a smile, people can sense the truth behind it. Humans are wired to read subtle cues. We pick up on tension and ease, kindness and coldness, without even realizing it. The Buddha understood this thousands of years ago. He wasn't talking about positive thinking in a shallow way. He was pointing to a profound reality. The mind is the architect of your world. When you tend to the mind, you're not just changing how you think, you're changing the energy that flows through your body and into the space around you. Let me share a little story. I once met an elderly woman in a small temple in northern Thailand. Her life had been anything but easy. She had lost her husband young, raised children on her own, worked long hours in the fields. And yet, when she looked at you, her eyes seemed to smile before her lips even moved. There was a softness there, a warmth that made you feel instantly safe. I asked her once how she managed to stay so lighthearted after so much hardship. She said, "If I let my mind grow bitter, my face would grow bitter too. And then, the world would send that bitterness back to me. So I choose to grow something different inside." That's the heart of mind precedes all things. The mind doesn't just influence your life, it sets the tone for it. It's like the soil for a garden. If the soil is rich and nourished, flowers can bloom. If the soil is dry and toxic, even the seeds of joy struggle to grow. Now here's the big question. If the mind is the source, what are you planting in it each day? Are you planting seeds of kindness, patience, and gratitude? Or are you, without realizing, planting seeds of irritation, self-criticism, and judgment? This is not about blaming ourselves for every bad mood or difficult emotion. We are human. We get tired. We get frustrated. The Buddha wasn't telling us to force happiness. He was inviting us to notice what's growing in our mental garden and to water the plants we actually want to keep. Because over time, your inner state becomes your outer expression. A person who practices compassion doesn't just act differently, they start to look different. The lines on their face soften. The way they carry themselves becomes lighter. And people can feel it, even if they don't understand why. In our modern world, we spend so much time trying to improve our appearance from the outside. Better clothes, better skincare, better lighting for that perfect selfie. But what if the most powerful beauty routine is invisible? What if the truest glow comes not from a product, but from the mind that wakes up in the morning? You can test this yourself. Tomorrow, before you start your day, spend just 5 minutes focusing on one wholesome quality, gratitude, loving kindness, or even a simple wish for the well-being of everyone you meet. Then notice how people respond to you throughout the day. You might be surprised by how your small shift in mind creates ripples in the outer world. And here's something worth remembering. Our mind is always broadcasting, even when we are silent. Walk into a room where two people have just been arguing, and you can feel the tension. Step into a room filled with laughter, and you feel lighter without knowing why. That's the energy of the mind, subtle, but powerful enough to shape the entire atmosphere. The Buddha's teaching in the Dhammapada is both a reminder and a responsibility. It's a reminder that your mind matters more than you think. And it's a responsibility, because once you know this, you realize you're shaping your world from the inside out, every moment. So maybe the next time you look in the mirror, don't just check your hair or your clothes. Check your mind. Ask yourself, what am I carrying into the world today? Because when your mind is peaceful, compassionate, and clear, it doesn't just change you, it changes how the world meets you. And in the end, that's the beauty the Buddha was pointing to. Not the beauty of youth, or symmetry, or perfection, but the beauty of a mind that radiates warmth, wisdom, and love. Beyond genetics, we all inherit something from our parents, our eye color, the shape of our nose, the curve of our jawline. Genetics gives us a kind of blueprint, a starting point for how we look. But have you ever noticed how two people with similar features can leave completely different impressions? That's because the human face is more than bone structure and skin tone. It's alive. It's a canvas constantly painted by our mind. Your thoughts, your moods, your inner stories, they all show up, often without you realizing it. Scientists talk about micro-expressions, those fleeting, almost invisible changes in the face that reveal what we are feeling before we even speak. A slight tightening around the eyes when we are suspicious. A quick lift of the eyebrows when we are surprised. A softness in the mouth when we feel compassion. These tiny movements happen in less than a second, but people pick up on them. It's part of how we read each other, even without words. And here's the fascinating thing. Micro-expressions aren't just random muscle twitches. They're the body's direct reflection of the mind's weather. If your mind is sunny, your face brightens. If your mind is stormy, shadows fall, whether you want them to or not. Think about posture too. Genetics may give you your height, but your stance is a message from your inner world. A confident person often walks with an open chest and steady steps. Someone weighed down by worry may move as if carrying an invisible backpack of stones. The mind sets the tone, and the body follows. I once met a man in his late 60s who worked as a school janitor. By most standards, his job was modest, but when he walked into a room, you couldn't help but notice him. His posture was upright, but not rigid. His eyes were bright, his smile ready. You felt good just being around him. Later, I learned he had been through incredible hardships, health scares, financial losses, but he had a habit of starting each day by thinking of 3 things he was grateful for. "It keeps my shoulders light," he said. And I believed him. Contrast that with someone who has everything on paper, a good career, financial security, a beautiful home, but whose mind is often tangled in resentment or fear. Over time, it shows. Their shoulders tighten. Their expressions harden. Even in moments of celebration, there's a kind of tension that can't be hidden. This is why the Buddha's teaching, mind precedes all things, is so powerful. Yes, genetics plays a role in who we are physically, but the quality of your presence, the warmth in your eyes, the way you carry yourself, the energy people feel when they meet you, comes from the mind you cultivate. We often think of aura as something mystical, but in this context, it's simple. Your aura is the emotional and mental tone you project into the space around you. Spend years nurturing compassion, and people will sense a calm openness before you even speak. Spend years feeding anger or cynicism, and the world will feel that too. This is why 2 siblings, raised in the same home with similar features, can appear so different as adults. One may seem approachable and vibrant, the other closed off and cold. The difference isn't in their DNA, it's in the patterns of the mind they've nurtured over a lifetime. And here's a question worth asking yourself. What is my mind teaching my body to say before I open my mouth? Because whether we realize it or not, we are always communicating. Through the slope of our shoulders, the softness or sharpness in our eyes, the pace of our steps. You might be thinking, but I can fake a smile, right? I can hide what I'm really feeling. And yes, you can, briefly. But here's the catch. The human nervous system is incredibly sensitive to authenticity. Even if someone can't name what's off, they can often feel when there's a gap between the outer mask and the inner state. Over time, the truth seeps through. So if you want to change how you come across to the world, the most effective place to start isn't with your wardrobe or your skincare routine, it's with your mind. When you soften the mind, the body naturally softens. When you clear the mind, the eyes clear. When you lighten the mind, the posture rises. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to be cheerful all the time. That's just another kind of mask. Instead, it means developing a gentle awareness of your mental habits, noticing when you're feeding a story of fear and choosing to breathe instead, catching yourself when you're replaying an old resentment and deciding to water a seed of kindness instead. It's slow work, but it's the kind of work that transforms you in a way people can't quite put into words. They might say, "You look different lately," without realizing it's not your haircut, it's your mind. So, the next time you look in the mirror, don't just check your reflection for symmetry or lines. Look for the subtle messages your mind is sending through your face, your stance, your presence. Ask yourself, if my mind is shaping my appearance, what am I allowing it to create today? Because beyond genetics, there's a deeper inheritance, one you give yourself every single day. And that's the inheritance of the mind you choose to grow. the face as a mirror of the heart. They say the face never lies. I think that's only partly true, because while people can hide behind practiced smiles or polite expressions, the heart has a way of slipping through the cracks. The face is like a mirror, but not for the skin or the bone. It's a mirror for the heart. Look closely, and you'll see it. Joy lifts the eyes before it ever curves the lips. Anger tightens the jaw and pulls the brows together, even if someone is trying to keep their voice calm. Fear makes the pupils widen and the skin pale, as if the body is quietly bracing for something. And compassion softens everything. The gaze becomes steady but gentle, the lines of the face seem to smooth, and the whole person feels more open. We see this every day, even if we don't put it into words. You've probably noticed how someone who's deeply in love seems to glow, or how a friend under constant stress appears older almost overnight. It's not magic, it's the mind and heart shaping the body in real time. I remember a neighbor I grew up with, Mrs. Ellison. She was in her late 70s, her hair completely silver, her skin lined with years. But when she greeted you at the door, there was a warmth in her eyes that made you forget the wrinkles. She loved people, and it showed, not in a forced way, but in the tiny, almost invisible cues. The way she tilted her head to listen, the gentle upturn at the corner of her mouth, the steady focus in her eyes when you spoke. She carried compassion like a subtle perfume, and everyone who met her walked away lighter. Now contrast that with someone you've seen who's been living in resentment for years. The mouth begins to curve down even at rest. The muscles around the eyes hold tension like they're expecting bad news. The energy feels guarded, even before a word is spoken. This isn't about judging anyone's appearance. It's about noticing how the heart quietly etches its story into the face. History gives us striking examples too. Look at photographs of leaders like Abraham Lincoln. In his earlier portraits, his face seems softer, with a hint of youthful roundness. But during the Civil War years, the deep furrows, the tightened eyes, the drawn cheeks tell a story of unimaginable strain and responsibility. The weight he carried in his heart is written in every line of his later face. Or think about the Dalai Lama. No matter your beliefs, it's hard to deny that his face radiates a kind of joy that seems unshaken by hardship. His smile is not just lips and teeth, it's in the crinkle of the eyes, the relaxed openness of his features, the sense that he is truly there with whoever he's speaking to. That's what happens when a life is steeped in compassion. It's worth asking, if our face reflects our heart, what does mine say right now? When you catch your reflection unexpectedly, in a store window, in your phone's camera, what mood is living there? Are the eyes tired and darting, or are they steady and bright? Does the mouth rest in tension, or in ease? We can't control every flicker of expression, nor should we. The goal isn't to perform happiness or fake serenity. In fact, that's exhausting, and people can sense the disconnect. The deeper work is tending to the heart so that what naturally shows on the face is something we are at peace with. I once heard a meditation teacher say, "Your face at 80 will be the sum of your most frequent thoughts." At first, it made me laugh, but the more I looked around, the more I saw it. People who spend years practicing gratitude often have an easy smile, even when they are alone. People who've lived in constant suspicion may keep their brows slightly furrowed, even in moments of rest. The face remembers. The good news is that this mirror of the heart is not fixed. It changes every day, in small ways, depending on what we feed the mind and spirit. A week of kindness, toward others, and toward yourself, can bring back a softness you thought was gone. A few months of mindful breathing and letting go of grudges can change the way people see you before you even say hello. So maybe the most powerful beauty practice isn't found in a bottle or a clinic. Maybe it's found in how we speak to ourselves in the quiet moments, in how we choose to respond when someone hurts us, in how often we pause to notice something worth smiling about. Because the face is not just skin, it's a story. And whether we are conscious of it or not, we are writing that story every single day with the thoughts we keep and the feelings we nurture. When you really understand this, something shifts. You stop obsessing over every tiny flaw in the mirror and start asking a different question. What story do I want my face to tell? Do I want it to speak of bitterness, or of resilience, of fear, or of peace, of isolation, or of love? The beauty of this approach is that it's available to everyone. You don't need perfect features to have a beautiful face. You need a beautiful heart. And the heart, unlike genetics, is something you can shape with every choice you make. So the next time someone looks at you and says, "There's something about you that's changed," remember, maybe it's not your haircut. Maybe it's your heart finally showing its true face. Eyes, the windows of the soul. They say the eyes are the windows of the soul. I believe that's not just poetry, it's one of the most practical truths about human connection. You can spend a lifetime learning to choose your words carefully, but your eyes will still tell the truth. Think about the last time you met someone for the first time. Before they spoke a single word, you already had a feeling about them, whether they felt open or guarded, calm or restless. That impression didn't come from a handshake or small talk. It came from the eyes. Clarity in the eyes tells its own story. It's not about perfect color or brightness. It's about the way they meet the world. Eyes that are clear seem to say, I'm here. I'm present. I'm not hiding. You can see this in people who've done the work of emptying out grudges and fears. There's a steadiness in their gaze, a transparency that makes you trust them without even knowing why. Warmth in the eyes is different. It's like a fire in winter, quiet, steady, and inviting. You often see it in grandparents when they look at their grandchildren, or in a close friend when they're truly happy for you. Warm eyes don't just see you, they make you feel seen. And that feeling is rare in a world where we are often half distracted, glancing up from our phones or thinking of what to say next. Then there's restlessness. Eyes that dart, avoid, or glaze over, like the mind is trapped in another place entirely. We've all been on the receiving end of that. You're talking to someone and you can almost feel them scrolling through an invisible feed in their head, only half with you. Restlessness in the eyes doesn't always mean dishonesty. Sometimes it's simply the weight of stress, anxiety, or distraction spilling into the gaze. But either way, it changes the quality of connection. And that's the thing. Eye contact can reveal more than words ever will. In conversation, words can be rehearsed, even manipulated. But the eyes? They're like a live stream from the mind. You can tell when someone is listening not just by nodding or responding at the right time, but by whether their gaze stays open and engaged. I remember being at a retreat where we were asked to do a strange exercise. Sit across from a stranger and look into their eyes for 2 full minutes without speaking. At first, it was awkward. Our minds filled with self-conscious thoughts. What does my face look like? Should I blink more? Less? But then something unexpected happened. Without words, we began to feel each other's emotions, hesitation, curiosity, and eventually, a kind of gentle acceptance. By the end, we both smiled, not because we shared a joke, but because we felt we had actually met each other, soul to soul. This is why in Buddhist teachings, presence is so powerful. A wandering mind creates wandering eyes, but a mind anchored in the moment, calm, compassionate, aware, naturally reflects that through the gaze. The eyes become steady not by force, but as a side effect of being fully here. Of course, eye contact has its nuances. Too much, and it can feel aggressive. Too little, and it can seem evasive. The key is not to perform connection, but to let your attention truly rest on the person in front of you. When you do that, your eyes will take care of the rest. Think of the people in your life whose eyes you remember vividly. Maybe it's a teacher who believed in you when no one else did, or a friend who sat with you through a painful time. You probably can't recall every word they said, but you remember the look in their eyes, because in that moment, you felt understood. The beauty of this is that it's available to all of us. You don't need a certain eye color, shape, or size to have eyes that speak volumes. You just need a mind that's willing to be present, and a heart that's willing to care. And perhaps that's the question worth carrying into our day. If my eyes are windows to my soul, what do I want them to show? Do I want them to mirror the constant noise of distraction, or the quiet steadiness of attention? Do I want them to radiate suspicion, or warmth? The truth is, we can't fake it for long. Whatever we feed the mind will eventually find its way to the eyes, which means every moment of mindfulness, every act of kindness, every time we let go of bitterness, it's not just changing our mood, it's polishing those windows. So the next time you're with someone, try this. Put the phone down, quiet the mind, and let your gaze meet theirs without rushing to speak. Let your eyes say, I'm here. I see you. You matter. You may be surprised by how much that says, even in silence. Because in the end, the eyes don't just reflect the soul, they invite others into it. And that is where real connection begins. The power of a genuine smile. They say a smile can light up a room. But have you ever noticed, not all smiles feel the same? There's the polite smile. You know the one. The quick curve of the lips you give to a stranger in passing, or the half smile you offer at work when someone makes a mild joke. It's pleasant, safe, and keeps the social gears moving. but it doesn't linger in memory. It's like a warm lamp in the corner, useful, but not unforgettable. And then, there's the other kind. The smile that feels like it's coming from deep inside, from a place of genuine goodwill. It's not just the mouth that moves, it's the eyes, the cheeks, the whole face joining in. And more than that, it's the energy behind it. When someone truly means their smile, you feel it, not just see it. It's almost as if their presence is wrapping you in a soft blanket. I remember once, years ago, being in a coffee shop on a grey, heavy morning. My mind was scattered, my mood low. The barista handed me my coffee, looked me right in the eyes, and smiled. Not the quick customer service smile, but one of those real, human smiles. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. But for some reason, in that instant, I felt lighter. My chest loosened. I took my first sip and thought, why did that feel like medicine? That's the thing about genuine smiles. They heal. They remind us that, even for a moment, we are seen and acknowledged as human beings, not just background extras in someone else's day. Science has a few things to say about this, too. Genuine smiles, what researchers call Duchenne smiles, activate certain muscles around the eyes, which trigger the release of feel-good chemicals like dopamine and serotonin. But honestly, you don't need a study to prove this. You've felt it. You know it. Here's the deeper truth. A genuine smile isn't just about what's on your face, it's about what's in your heart. You can't fake the micro-expressions that come from true warmth or compassion. If your mind is busy judging someone, your smile will show it. If your heart is closed, your smile will look, well, closed. But when you're genuinely wishing someone well, even silently, it changes everything. That's why some people seem to have an aura that draws others in. It's not just because they're friendly or outgoing. It's because, when they smile, they're silently saying, I'm glad you exist. And when we feel that from someone, we instinctively trust them. Think of historical figures or leaders who inspired loyalty, not through fear or grand speeches, but through presence. Many of them had a smile that made people feel safe, understood, and valued. Mother Teresa had that. Desmond Tutu had that. Mr. Rogers? Absolutely. Now, I'm not saying you have to walk around grinning at everyone like an over-caffeinated game show host. A genuine smile doesn't even need to be big. Sometimes it's just a subtle lift at the corners of your mouth, paired with a softness in the eyes, and a mind that's thinking, I wish you well. Here's a little experiment you can try. The next time you're at the grocery store, the bank, or anywhere you interact with strangers, pause for just a second before you smile. In your mind, send them a simple thought, I hope your day goes well. Then let your smile form naturally. Notice how different it feels, not just for them, but for you. Because here's the thing, a genuine smile isn't only a gift you give, it's a gift you receive. When you smile from goodwill, your body relaxes, your own stress levels drop, and your day feels lighter. It's like you're watering two plants with the same pour, yours and theirs. We live in a time when many people feel unseen. Rushed conversations, faces hidden behind screens, interactions reduced to transactions. But every once in a while, someone will break through that noise with something as small, as human, as a real smile. And that moment can be the thread that pulls someone back toward hope. So maybe the real question is this: what would happen if we used our smiles more intentionally? Not to impress, not to manipulate, but to genuinely wish others well. What if, instead of saving our best smiles for people we already know, we offered them freely to strangers? It wouldn't solve all the world's problems, but maybe, just maybe, it would soften the edges. So today, try this. Smile at someone as if you're giving them a gift. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Not because they've earned it, but because you recognize they're human, just like you, carrying their own joys and burdens. Because a genuine smile isn't just an expression, it's an invitation. It says, we are in this together. And sometimes, that's all someone needs to keep going. Aura and presence. Have you ever been in a room, minding your own business, and then, someone walks in, and the whole atmosphere changes? Maybe no one even said a word, but suddenly you feel it. A shift. A ripple. As if the air itself has a new texture. That's what I want to talk about today. Aura and presence. Some people have a presence that's loud without a single sound. You sense it before you see them. They carry a kind of energy, sometimes warm and grounding, sometimes tense and restless, that your body picks up instantly. It's not magic. It's not some mysterious force field. It's simply the truth that who you are inside eventually shows up on the outside. I've met people who walk into a space and immediately make it feel safer, calmer, lighter. They don't need to command the room with a booming voice. They don't need flashy clothes or perfect words. It's their energy, the stillness in their mind, the quiet confidence in their posture, the way they look at others with genuine attention instead of scanning for their turn to speak. And I've also met people who carry chaos with them. Even before they open their mouth, you can sense their inner storm, their anxiety, their irritation, their need to prove something. It leaks out in restless movements, darting eyes, tight shoulders. Here's the thing, your aura, your presence, isn't something you put on like a jacket before going out. You can't fake it for long. It's the cumulative result of what's going on inside you most of the time. If you live in constant inner conflict, your presence will feel unsettled. If you nurture inner peace, people will feel it the moment you arrive. I remember once being at a crowded airport during a long delay. People were tired, frustrated, and snappy. But there was this one older man sitting near me. He wasn't doing anything special, just reading a small book, occasionally looking up with a soft smile. But somehow, just being near him felt good, like a little pocket of calm in the middle of all that noise. When I finally spoke to him, I realized it wasn't about what he said, it was about how he was. He didn't seem in a hurry. He wasn't radiating impatience. He was simply present. That's the power of inner peace. It's contagious. And yet, most of us underestimate it. We focus so much on how we look or what we say, thinking that's what people remember. But years later, people rarely recall the exact words you used. They remember how they felt in your presence. Think about it. Haven't you had a conversation with someone where you walked away feeling lighter, more hopeful, even if the topic wasn't particularly uplifting? And haven't you also had interactions where you felt drained, even if nothing bad was said? That's the unspoken truth. Your inner state is always broadcasting, like a silent radio signal. And people, whether they realize it or not, are tuning in. So the real question isn't how do I get people to like me, or how do I make a strong impression? The real question is, what am I carrying inside that people can feel without me saying a word? If you want your presence to uplift others, you have to tend to the roots, not just polish the leaves. That means slowing down, making space to breathe, paying attention to what's stirring inside you before you walk into the next room. Meditation helps. Gratitude helps. Even something as simple as pausing to notice your surroundings before stepping into a meeting can shift your energy. The more you anchor yourself in the present moment, the more grounded your presence becomes. And here's the paradox. When your presence is calm and centered, you don't have to try to be influential. People naturally lean in. They may not know why they feel more at ease around you, but they'll sense it, and they'll remember it. We live in a culture that rewards volume, speed, and constant motion. But presence, real presence, is the opposite. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the quiet anchor in the storm. It's about carrying an inner peace so steady that it steadies others, too. So next time you walk into a room, pause for just a second. Feel your feet on the ground. Take one slow breath. Remind yourself, I don't have to perform. I just have to be here. Because in the end, the energy you bring speaks louder than any words you could say. And when that energy comes from a place of peace, compassion, and genuine presence, people won't just notice you. They'll feel you. Compassion as a transformative force. Have you ever noticed how a small act of kindness from someone, maybe even a stranger, can change the entire color of your day? It could be as simple as someone holding the door, offering you a seat, or giving you a smile that feels like it carries no agenda, no strings attached. That's compassion at work, and it's more powerful than most of us realize. When we hear the word compassion, we often think of charity, or maybe pity. But true compassion is deeper. It's not about feeling sorry for someone, it's about feeling with them. It's the ability to see another person's humanity as clearly as your own. And here's the surprising part. Practicing compassion doesn't just change the person receiving it. It changes you. In ways you can feel, and in ways others can see. I remember a story about a nurse in a busy emergency room. She worked long shifts surrounded by stress, pain, and sometimes even anger from the people she was trying to help. She told me she made a choice to treat each patient as if they were her own family member. Not because it was easy, but because it changed the entire energy between her and them. She noticed that when she approached patients with warmth and patience, even the most anxious or frustrated people softened. But she also noticed something else. She felt lighter herself, less drained by the work. Science backs this up. Researchers have found that when we practice compassion, through simple, intentional acts, our bodies actually respond. Levels of stress hormones drop. The brain releases oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone, which not only improves our mood but also strengthens our immune system. It's as if our biology is wired to reward us for caring about others. Spiritually, many traditions have taught this for centuries. Buddhism speaks of metta, or loving kindness, as a practice that transforms the heart. In Christianity, compassion is seen as an expression of divine love. Across cultures and beliefs, the message repeats: when we open our hearts to others, something in us expands. But here's what's truly fascinating. Compassion changes how people perceive us. It shows in our eyes, in the way we carry ourselves, in the subtle expressions we don't even notice. Someone who regularly practices loving kindness often has a presence that feels safe, trustworthy, magnetic. People are drawn to them without fully understanding why. Think about the people you admire most, not for their achievements, but for the way they make you feel. Chances are, compassion is part of their secret. It's not just their intelligence or their confidence, it's their willingness to genuinely care. And the best part? Compassion doesn't require grand gestures. You don't have to fix someone's life or solve their problems. Sometimes, the most transformative thing you can offer is your full attention, a moment of patience, or a small act that says, "I see you. You matter." The challenge, of course, is practicing compassion when it's hard. It's easy to be kind to someone who's kind to you. But what about the impatient driver who cuts you off? The coworker who's short-tempered? The neighbor who complains too much? Here's a thought experiment I found helpful. When someone behaves badly, instead of reacting with equal frustration, I imagine what it would be like to carry whatever they're carrying. Maybe they just got bad news. Maybe they haven't slept in days. Maybe they've been fighting a private battle for years. I'm not excusing their behavior, but I'm choosing not to let their pain turn into mine. And something shifts when you do that. You feel less like you're absorbing someone's negativity, and more like you're gently meeting it with a steadier, calmer presence. Over time, this becomes your default way of moving through the world. There's also a beautiful ripple effect to compassion. You might never know how far your small act travels. You might hold the door for someone who, feeling a little lighter, decides to call a friend they've been avoiding. That friend might be lifted enough to do something kind for someone else. And on it goes. We live in a world that often glorifies sharpness, speed, and self-interest. But compassion slows us down just enough to notice each other again. It reminds us that, beneath all the noise, most of us want the same things: to feel safe, to be understood, to know we matter. So the question isn't, why should I be compassionate? The real question is, who might I become if I make compassion my daily practice? Imagine waking up each day with the quiet confidence that no matter what chaos you encounter, you can meet it with a steady, open heart. Imagine the people around you slowly responding to that energy, not because you told them to, but because they felt it. That's the transformative force of compassion. It changes the way we feel inside. It changes the way others see us. And in a world where so much feels out of our control, it's one of the few powers we can choose to exercise, moment by moment, breath by breath. So maybe today, start small. Offer a smile that's real. Listen without rushing to reply. Let someone merge in traffic without resentment. You might not change the world in that instant, but you'll change the space you're in. And sometimes, that's exactly where change begins. The impact of negative mental states. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt that your face somehow looked different, older, heavier, more tired, without anything in your life changing on the outside? Sometimes, it's not the years or the lack of sleep that's changing us. It's what we are carrying inside. Our emotions don't just live in our heads. They settle in our posture, our eyes, the tiny muscles around our mouth. Over time, they sculpt our face in ways we often don't notice, until one day, we do. Take resentment, for example. It's one of those emotions that feels like it's protecting us. I'm holding on to this because I was wronged, but in reality, it's slowly tightening everything about us. The jaw sets harder. The eyes lose a little softness. Even when we are not thinking about it consciously, that tension stays. People sense it before we say a word. Anxiety does something different. It lives in micromovements, slightly raised eyebrows, darting glances, shallow breaths. It's like the body is whispering to the world, something's wrong, even if I can't name it. And because our nervous system is constantly signaling alert, others often feel on edge around us without knowing why. Greed, or the constant hunger for more, may be even subtler. It doesn't always look like a villain in a movie rubbing their hands together. Sometimes, it's just an intensity in the gaze, a restlessness in the way we scan our surroundings. It's the feeling of never enough leaking into how we look at the world, and how the world looks back at us. Now, none of this is about judgment. We all experience resentment, anxiety, and desire. They are human. But what's important is recognizing when these states are no longer just passing visitors and have started moving in like permanent residents. I remember meeting a man in his 70s who radiated warmth. His eyes were calm, his face open. Later, I learned he'd had a life full of hardships, failed businesses, health scares, even the loss of loved ones. When I asked him how he kept such a peaceful presence, he smiled and said, "I learned to let go before the world could carve bitterness into me." That line stuck with me. Science actually supports his wisdom. Chronic stress and negative emotions can increase inflammation in the body, which not only affects our health but also changes our skin, muscle tone, and even the brightness of our eyes. The mind and body are in constant conversation, and the face is one of the clearest transcripts of that dialogue. So the question becomes, how do we catch these states before they start to shape us from the outside in? First, awareness. Start noticing your own patterns. When you feel resentment rising, pause and check your face in the mirror. Are your shoulders creeping up? Is your jaw tight? When anxiety kicks in, can you feel your breath getting shallow? When that craving for more takes over, whether it's for money, status, or even approval, can you sense the tension in your eyes? Second, release. This doesn't mean pretending everything's fine or forcing yourself to just be positive. It means finding ways to let the emotion move through you instead of getting stuck. Maybe that's journaling, talking to a trusted friend, going for a long walk, or practicing meditation. Sometimes even a deep breath with conscious intention can soften the grip of a feeling. And third, replacement. Nature hates a vacuum. If we simply try to not be resentful or not be anxious, the mind will look for something else to fill the space. What if we replaced resentment with gratitude, finding one small thing to appreciate, even in a difficult situation? What if we replaced anxiety with curiosity, asking, what's really happening right now? What if we replaced greed with generosity, offering something, no matter how small, to someone else? These shifts don't just change our internal landscape. Over time, they rewrite our external presence. People may not be able to explain it, but they'll feel the difference. You'll notice it too, in the way strangers respond to you, in the ease you feel in your own skin. We often think beauty is about symmetry or perfect features. But harmony, true facial harmony, comes from alignment between our inner state and our outer expression. When the inside is calm, open, and steady, the outside naturally reflects that. If you've ever met someone whose face seems to light up a room, you know what I mean. It's not about youth. It's not about makeup or lighting. It's about the absence of that invisible weight that negative mental states place on us. So maybe tonight, before bed, take a quiet moment in front of the mirror. Not to check for wrinkles or flaws, but to ask yourself, what am I carrying on my face right now? Is it something I want to keep? Because here's the thing, life will keep giving us reasons to feel hurt, anxious, or wanting more. But we get to decide whether we let those moments etch themselves into who we are, or whether we transform them into something lighter before they take root. Your face tells a story, whether you speak or not. Make it one you'll be proud to wear. Cultivating inner beauty through mind training. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to glow, not because of makeup, fancy clothes, or good lighting, but because there's something peaceful about them? You can't quite name it, but you feel drawn in. That's not luck. That's inner beauty, and it's something we can cultivate. We live in a world that invests billions in creams, filters, and cosmetic procedures. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting to look your best, there's a kind of beauty no product can create. It's the kind that comes from your mind, from your heart, from the way you live your inner life. Think about it. Stress shows on our faces, just like joy does. Worry can etch lines into our forehead, while gratitude can soften them. A mind in constant chaos tends to leak that chaos into our expressions, our posture, even the way we enter a room. But a mind that's trained, one that knows how to rest, how to focus, how to let go, radiates something entirely different. This is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to what's happening right now, without judgment. It's noticing your breath, the sound of the rain outside, the way your coffee smells in the morning. And here's the secret. When you practice mindfulness regularly, you stop carrying so much invisible baggage into every moment. That lightness shows. People see it in your eyes before they even realize why. Then there's meditation. Now, meditation has a lot of myths around it, like you have to sit in a perfect lotus pose or empty your mind completely. But meditation, at its core, is just training the mind to focus and return, over and over. It's like going to the gym, but for your awareness. And just like working out changes your body over time, meditating changes the way you carry yourself. You become less reactive, more centered. You walk into a meeting or a family gathering, and instead of bringing tension, you bring calm. I once met a woman who had been meditating daily for over 20 years. She told me she started because she wanted to manage her stress at work. But what surprised her was how her relationships changed. Friends said she seemed more open, more approachable. Even her face looked softer, more alive. She hadn't changed her skincare routine, she'd changed her mind. And then there's gratitude. It might sound simple, even cliché, but it's one of the fastest ways to shift your energy. Gratitude turns your attention from what's missing to what's already here. And when you live from that place, your expression changes. There's a warmth that comes from genuinely appreciating life, and it's visible. People feel it before you speak. Let's get real for a second. None of these practices will give you overnight results. Mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, they're like planting seeds. At first, you might not notice much, but one day, you'll catch yourself reacting differently to something that used to set you off. You'll see someone look at you with trust and ease, and you'll realize, oh, it's working. The transformations can be remarkable. I know a man who struggled with anger for most of his life. His kids were even afraid to approach him when he was in one of his moods. Then he began meditating, 5 minutes a day at first, nothing fancy. Over the years, his whole presence changed. His voice softened. His eyes had more kindness in them. His daughter once told him, "Dad, you're so much easier to hug now." That's inner beauty in action. Science backs this up. Studies show that mindfulness and meditation can lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone, improve emotional regulation, and even slow some signs of aging. Gratitude practices are linked to better sleep, stronger immune systems, and higher levels of well-being. All of these changes show up in the body, especially in the face. Here's the thing, your mind is shaping your face every single day. If you train it toward peace, clarity, and appreciation, that training will be visible, whether you're wearing designer clothes or just your old hoodie. And the best part? This kind of beauty doesn't fade with age. In fact, it often deepens. So where do you start? It can be as simple as setting a timer for 2 minutes and focusing on your breath. Or keeping a little notebook by your bed to write down 3 things you're grateful for each night. Or pausing before you respond in a conversation, just to notice what's happening in your body. These moments might feel small, but they're powerful. They're like drops of water wearing away a stone, gentle, but unstoppable. And over time, they'll carve out a version of you that feels lighter, calmer, more alive. When you think about it, cultivating inner beauty isn't just about you. The peace you nurture becomes peace you share. Your calm helps others breathe easier. Your gratitude reminds people of their own blessings. And your presence, your quiet radiance, becomes a gift to everyone you meet. So the next time you look in the mirror, ask yourself, not just how do I look, but what am I radiating? Because that's the beauty people remember. That's the beauty that lasts. Conclusion: the inner path to outer grace. When we talk about beauty, most conversations start with the surface: skin tone, symmetry, hair, clothes, the right lighting for a perfect selfie. But if you've been with me through this journey, you know that's not where beauty truly lives. The kind of beauty that stays with you, that people remember long after they've forgotten the details of your face, is born from within. I want to leave you with this truth. Outer grace is simply the echo of an inner state. When the mind is peaceful, it shows. The eyes soften, the voice carries warmth, the body moves with ease. When the heart is compassionate, It radiates in ways no makeup artist could paint and no filter could replicate. You can't fake it for long, because real beauty, the kind that feels like a safe harbor to others, comes from who you are when no one's watching. Think about the people you've met who instantly put you at ease. Maybe they weren't wearing anything remarkable. Maybe their features weren't conventionally perfect. But there was something about them, an authenticity, a groundedness, that made you want to linger in their company. That's inner grace. And it's something each of us can cultivate. The path is simple, but it's not effortless. It's the daily choice to nurture the mind, to notice when resentment creeps in, and gently replace it with understanding, to catch the spiral of anxiety and meet it with patience, to recognize greed or envy and soften it with gratitude. These little inner shifts shape not only your mental health, they reshape your presence in the world. It's like tending a garden. You don't just throw seeds into the soil once and expect flowers forever. You water, you prune, you protect what's growing. Some days you'll see blooms, other days just the slow, unseen work of roots spreading deeper. But over time, your inner garden flourishes, and people will notice, even if they can't explain why. There's a saying in Zen, the mind is like a pond. When it's still, the moon reflects clearly. Your face, your movements, your tone of voice, they're all the surface of that pond. A restless mind distorts the reflection. A peaceful mind makes it clear, calm, luminous. Science agrees. Research in psychology shows that qualities like kindness, empathy, and mindfulness change our micro-expressions, the tiny, often subconscious movements in the face. They influence our posture, our breathing, even the energy people feel when we walk into a room. It's not woo-woo, it's biology. The brain and body are constantly communicating, and the state of your mind is written across your features. And here's the best part. You don't need a perfect life to cultivate this beauty. You don't need endless free time or exotic retreats. You can begin exactly where you are, in the middle of your ordinary day. Maybe it's a 5-minute morning meditation before the emails start pouring in. Maybe it's pausing in the grocery line to really look at the cashier and offer a genuine smile. Maybe it's ending the night by listing 3 small things you're thankful for. These acts might seem small, almost insignificant, but they're not. Every time you choose patience over irritation, every time you choose kindness over judgment, every time you choose to be present instead of distracted, you're polishing the mirror of your mind. And that shine, people see it. They feel it. I've met elders in their 70s and 80s whose faces are lined with age, yet they're breathtaking, because their eyes still sparkle with curiosity and their voices still carry gentleness. And I've met people in their 20s who look tense, drained, years older than they are, because they've been carrying too much inner heaviness for too long. The difference isn't age. It's the inner path they've chosen. So as we close, I want you to remember, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you respond to life's challenges, it's all shaping the beauty you bring into the world. True beauty isn't a mask you put on. It's a light you uncover by clearing away what dims it. Every day is an invitation to walk that inner path. To let your mind be a place of peace, your heart a place of compassion. Do this, and your outer grace will follow naturally. Not the kind that's frozen in photographs, but the living, breathing kind that deepens with time. And maybe, years from now, someone will look at you and think, I can't explain it, but being around them just feels good. That's when you'll know, you've found the kind of beauty that lasts.